You're watching the Gastro Geezer. Welcome to my channel.
These are my Terry's Chocolate Orange Profiteroles. They came out absolutely delicious, they were really fun to make, and it was actually much easier than you might think to do at home. Let's start off with the choux pastry dough. To make this, you're going to need 75 grams of sifted flour, 150 ml of water, and exactly 50 grams of butter. It's important to remember at this stage that baking's a science, it's not an art, and you want these measurements to be exact. Your next step is to chop up the butter into smaller pieces, put it in a pan with the water, and bring to the boil. As soon as the water starts to boil, take the pan off the heat and add all your flour at once. You're then going to work the mix together with a wooden spoon. At this stage, the dough will come together nicely, but it will still look greyly. It's not going to have the glossy finish that we look for at the end. And that looks good to go. Next, it's onto the eggs. So what you're going to do is take 3 beaten eggs, and we're going to use roughly 2/3 of it to go into that dough. So you start off adding bit by bit, slowly working the eggs into the dough mixture. As you can see, when you first put them in, the mix will sort of fall apart. And then gradually, as the eggs incorporate, the mix will come back together again. You've got to repeat that process until the mix is glossy, smooth, and to me it kind of resembles a marzipan. So that's what you're looking for. It's roughly going to be 2/3 of the eggs. There you go, that's what you're looking for at the end. Lovely consistency, completely smooth, ready to go into your piping bag. Speaking of piping bags, I'm well aware that some of you may not have a piping bag set at home, but don't fear, they're really cheap and easy to access. I was able to get this set from the local supermarket for well under £10, and it worked just fine. So the idea is, you will have a set of nozzles, and for this particular job I'm just using a generic round nozzle. You cut off the end of the bag, stick your nozzle in there, and then fill the bag with your pastry, hopefully without making a horrible mess, which is easier said than done, believe me. Once you've got all your pastry in there, you simply tie off the end. You can use string. Here I'm just using a bit of cling film, and then you're good to go. Your next job is to get the tray ready for the profiteroles to be piped onto. So what we do, it's a little chefy hack. You take a little bit of the choux pastry, smear that on the tray before you put your grease-proof paper down. What this is going to do is make sure that the grease-proof sits flat onto the bottom of the pan, bottom of the tray, sorry, to make it much easier to pipe. And it also means that the fan from your oven is not going to interfere with the paper and move things about. You're going to want to pipe roughly 12 2cm in diameter choux pastry balls onto your tray. To do this, hold the piping bag nozzle as close to the tray as possible and squeeze out. You then brush the top of the balls with the remainder of your beaten egg. This will give it a lovely gloss and make sure that everything crisps up nicely in the oven. You're going to cook the profiteroles for 10 minutes at 220 degrees Celsius. You then turn on your oven to 190 and leave them there for another roughly 15-20 minutes, depending on your oven. While the profiteroles are cooking, you can move on to your cream filling and chocolate sauce. For the cream, I use 250 ml of double cream, 30 grams of caster sugar, and a few splashes of vanilla extract. You then whip that mix together until the cream will hold its shape. That's ready then to go into a piping bag. Then it's on to the best bit, the Terry's Chocolate Orange. We're going to use about 1/4 of the chocolate for garnish. So I'm simply chopping it up into fine chunks. The rest of the chocolate we're going to use to make our sauce. Break it up into reasonable sized chunks and put the chocolate into a glass bowl. We're going to melt the chocolate using a bain-marie. In this instance, a bain-marie is simply a pan of simmering water. You stick your glass bowl on top and it's going to gently melt the chocolate. Once the chocolate has started to melt, add 50 ml of double cream and mix until it's a lovely smooth sauce. When your sauce is finished, you'll end up with something that looks a bit like this. Lovely, smooth, glossy chocolate sauce. Now it's time to get the profiteroles out of the oven. They've been in there for 25 minutes, they're lovely golden and brown and ready to be cooled. Once your profiteroles have cooled, it's time to finish them off. So as you can see, I've got everything laid out nicely to finish off the profiteroles. You start off by piping your cream into the profiteroles themselves. Now take a look at your profiterole. You'll probably notice some natural creases and imperfections in the ball itself where the pastry is a bit weaker. That's where you want to stick the nozzle in and squeeze your cream in. It's a really satisfying and fun job. Once you're finished doing that, take your cream-filled profiteroles and dip each one about halfway into our Terry's chocolate orange sauce. Finally, you're just going to sprinkle some of those lovely Terry's chocolate orange chunks on the top, and we're ready to plate up.
And there you have it, my chocolate orange profiteroles. Remember to like, comment and subscribe.